everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my Booktube-a-thon reading wrap-up. Booktube-a-thon was the beginning of August, and so this video is rather late, but better late than never, I suppose. I want to say I actually got up, yeah I did now that I'm thinking about it, I got my TBR pretty late too. I think I got that up almost at the end of Booktube-a-thon itself. That's just my life right now, constantly running late. Alright, here are the challenges. Challenge 1, let a coin toss decide what you're going to read first. Challenge 2, read a book about something you want to do. Challenge 3, read and watch a book to movie adaptation. Challenge 4, read a book with green on the cover. Challenge 5, read a book while wearing a hat. Challenge 5, read a book while wearing a hat the whole time. Challenge 6, read a book with a beautiful spine. And challenge 7, read 7 books. Normally when I do Booktube-a-thon, I either do all or one of a particular challenge. I want to say the first, I've done this 3 or 4 times. I don't know. But usually when I focus on the reading aspect of it, I complete all 7 challenges, I read all 7 books. Or on the other token, do all 7 video challenges. I did not do that this time. I didn't read all 7 books and I did not do all 7 challenges. I did mostly reading, but I didn't do any of the challenges this year. I actually did a reading vlog instead, and that I actually enjoyed that more. That was definitely less stress on my shoulders, and I still got to participate in a video thing for Booktube-a-thon, because that was the whole point of Booktube-a-thon. It was to celebrate Booktube. So instead of reading 7 books, I think I read 5 this time around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, I read 5 books this time around. Now for the first challenge, let a coin toss decide what you're reading first. And a coin toss basically told me to read Cat vs. Human by, what was the author's name? I said it for the previous video. It was Cat vs. Human by Yasmin Sorovek. I didn't really care for this. I talked about it in the previous video, but this was a graphic novel and it was a series of webcomics about being a crazy cat lady, and it was supposed to be super relatable and fun, and it was for, I guess, for me, a portion of the book, and it just felt repetitive after a while. And I also didn't like how the author decided to make fun of other people for various reasons, and I didn't care for that either. I was like, you know what, we're here to make fun of ourselves for being cat ladies, so I didn't care for that. So in the end, I rated this 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The next challenge that I completed, I didn't do the read a book about something you want to do. I had planned to read The Con Artist for that, and I never got around to it, so I did not complete that challenge. The third challenge was to read and watch a book to movie adaptation, and I had picked up Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This book was to help cover for a divination challenge for the owls, which is the main reason why I picked this up. I wanted something to cover both owls and for Booktube-a-thon. This was a reread for me. I love this book. I'm not going to get into the story because you're either very familiar with the story or if you've never read the series before. I would suggest that you read book 1 and I won't spoil book 3 for you. But I love it. It's my favorite one and I rated it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I did not watch the movie. I just did not have time to watch the movie. With how my schedule is now, with trying to work full-time, get stuff ready for the wedding. I just have a lot of going on my plate right now, to the point where I liked to do 2 videos a week on my channel. Have not been doing that lately, and I hope to have that change within the next couple of weeks. But because I am so busy, I did not watch the movie. I've seen the movie before, I've watched it several times before, so I'm counting it. I may have not watched it during Booktube-a-thon, but I've seen it before, and so I'm counting it. Next challenge was read a book with green on the cover. And for that, I read Friends with Boys by Faith Erin Hicks. That's actually a book that I own. I also own Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, but it's up there, and I don't feel like grabbing it right now. For this challenge, I read Friends with Boys by Faith Erin Hicks. But as you can see for this challenge, it has this really nice green cover. I freaking love Adventures of Superhero Girl, which is also by Faith Erin Hicks, but I don't necessarily love this one. This was still a fun read, but it wasn't a 5-star rating as I was hoping it would be. We have our main character here, and she was always homeschooled until she makes it to high school and her mom just takes off. And her mom was her teacher, and so her dad enrolls her in public school. So it's her trying to get acclimated to being a public school student. So I really felt for her as a character. And I also love how she has this awesome relationship with her brothers. I want to say she has three brothers, excuse me. She has three brothers, and they were all in the same situation as she is. So I like how the story focused on characters that I wanted to root for and I wanted to see grow, but I didn't really care for this, like, the ghost portion of this story. So our main character here, I'm totally spacing on her name. What is her name? Maggie. Maggie has the ability to see a ghost in the cemetery, and the ghost actually starts following her home. And so Maggie does whatever she can to try to get the ghost to move on. And that's what creates, like, the shenanigans that occur within the story. And I just didn't care for that aspect of the story. I felt like it didn't really wrap up to anything. Like, there was almost no point to it other than, like, it brings everyone together a little bit better. So I like the first half of the story, not necessarily the second half. And the art style was really cool. I enjoyed it. Like, all of our characters just have distinct, quirky personalities, and you can really see that in the drawings. So overall, I rated this 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I was going to show you the next book that I read for BookTube-a-thon, and I usually keep all my arcs down here, but I don't see where this one went. Maybe, did I not put it away? That's weird. That's unlike me. But the next thing that I read for BookTube-a-thon was City of Ghosts by E Schwab, or Victoria Schwab. I think for her kids stuff, she goes by her full name. I read this while doing the challenge, read a book while wearing a hat the whole time. In my reading vlog, I had joked about creating a new fashion statement. Where I was and the times I was reading, I couldn't necessarily wear the hat, so I wore it on my wrist. And because I had it on my body the whole time, I'm counting it towards this challenge. This book was really fun. The story follows a girl named Cassidy who has the ability to travel between our world and the Veil, where all the ghosts are. Like, the Veil kind of like pulls her into itself once in a while. She just doesn't have really the ability to ignore it. And because she's like this middle school kid, she does try to stay out of it. Now, her parents are doing this travel show in Edinburgh, Scotland. And Edinburgh is basically the city of ghosts. It's a very haunted city. And so when her parents go to do that, they take her along with them, which of course forces Cassidy to confront her ability to face the Veil. Now, when she gets to Edinburgh, there's like this lady in red that like kind of hunts down Cassidy, and she's the villain of the story. And I wish that the villain was more fleshed out. Like, I feel like the story itself had really nice pacing until the lady in red showed up, and then it moved far too quickly for my liking. But this was a middle grade book, and so it's almost understandable to have the pacing move a little bit faster, because as I understand it, a lot of kids don't really have the attention span to sit down and read a dense story about the lady in red. Just with my personal preferences, I like to see a really fleshed out villain, and I was disappointed in this particular aspect of the book. This is going to be a series, at least how it's written, it looks like it's going to be a series, and I am really intrigued about Cassidy's best friend. And Cassidy's best friend, of course, is a ghost that saved her life in the beginning of the book. Like, her almost drowning was what caused her to have the ability to travel to the Veil. And so I would like to see more backstory about the ghost best friend. And because of the pacing issues and issues with the villain, I did rate this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I enjoyed it, but didn't love it for these reasons. The next challenge was to read a book with a beautiful spine. I did not complete this challenge. I had hoped to read Ironcast, and I just never got around to it. And the last book I did read was An Enchantment of Ravens by, well, I actually have it right here, I think. Oh, it was a signed book. That's why it's not over here. Yeah, City of Ghosts is in my signed bookshelf. That's why I can't find it over here. Alright, I feel much better about it now. The next and last thing I did read for BookTube-a-thon is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. So our main story follows Isabel, who is like this master painter. She's a human in like this community that does business with fairies. And that's actually a dangerous thing to do, because you want their blessings and you want their gifts, because their magic will make your life easier. However, fairies are known to be mischievous, a little on the evil side, and you can ask for something like, hey, I want to have access to gold for my entire life. All right, fine, you can have gold, but every time you cry, you basically cry gold tears, and that can be problematic in everyday life. And so she has learned to interact with these fairies for her benefit and not to deal with any of the consequences until the Prince of the Autumn Court. I want to say it was the Autumn Court. It's it smacks of Akatar, which is A Court of Roses and Thorns by Sarah J. Maas. I think it smacks of that. And the prince, his name is Rook, and he has the ability to change into ravens, which is why there's a raven on her shoulder. She paints him, but she makes the mistake of painting like human emotion in his eyes, because fairies actually don't have the ability to do that, at least they shouldn't, but she actually sees it in his eyes. He unveils his painting in his court, and that's a political issue for him. Now his peers don't know if they can trust him as the prince. So he kidnaps Isabel to face judgment for her sins of painting him as a human. Now as he's bringing her through the different courts, like I want to say they cut through Spring Court in order to get to his court, like a romance like buds between them. And that's where the focus of the story is, the romance between these two characters, which is absolutely forbidden, because if they fall in love, one or two things need to happen. She needs to either drink from the well and become a fairy, which is something she absolutely does not want to do, or they both die. They both get sentenced to death. So the story is basically Isabel falling in love and trying to avoid the consequences of falling in love with a fairy prince. Now the premise absolutely had promise. I thought it sounded really cool when I first heard about it, but actually it was kind of meh for me. I thought the love story was too insta-lovey. I personally prefer a slow burn to my romances, and this kind of just gets thrown out there right out of the gate, which I didn't really care for. And while they're falling in love, there's like this other political thing happening, and they kind of get thrown into this, and a different fairy had caused all of this to happen, so he's our villain of the story, and I just did not get his motives whatsoever. At least that didn't get revealed to me until the absolute end. And how like his motives are revealed, it looks like it's setting up for a book 2. However, this is supposed to be a book 1, like a standalone. Like there's no book 1, and this is supposed to be it. I just thought with the pacing of everything, it's set up to be a series when it's not. So I thought the pacing was just really weird. So this was a meh experience for me, and so I rated this 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. So 5 books out of 7 isn't bad for a booktubeathon. It's not what I normally would do during booktubeathon, but with how everything that's going right now, I'm actually really pleased with how I did. Not gonna lie, I was feeling a little bit of FOMO seeing everyone's like challenge videos, and I was like, I don't have time. I don't have time for this. But it was really nice seeing those videos. So this is where I'm going to leave you. This is everything I have to say about booktubeathon. Did you participate in booktubeathon? Feel free to talk about that down in the comments. What did you think about some of these? Like, what did you think about Enchantment of Ravens? Am I like alone in my thoughts about how I feel about this book? Please feel free to talk about your thoughts about these books down in the comments below. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I guess it's ta-ta for now. Bye, guys!